Good afternoon. If I can bring to order the Planning and Economic Development Committee of Wednesday, March 11th, I'd like to ask the clerk to take a roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Badaway.
Present.
Councillor Bateman. Councillor Campion. Councillor Foster.
Present.
Chair Gale.
I'm here.
Councillor Ganan.
Present.
Councillor Greenwood.
Present.
Councillor Jordan. Councillor Junkin.
Here.
Councillor Kaiser. Councillor Morocco.
Present.
Councillor Olson.
Present.
Councillor Redicott. Councillor Cisco. Councillor Steele.
Here.
Councillor Ugolini. Here. Councillor Witteveen.
Present. Thank you.
And Councillor Rigby will be joining us late today, Chair.
Thank you. I'm now going to call on Councillor Greenwood to read the land acknowledgement statement.
Thank you, Chair Seaborn. The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandrock, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you. At this time, can I ask if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We do have a presentation today. I'll call on Carla Stout, General Manager, and Jordan Hamilton, Chief of Staff for the Niagara Transit, for their presentation respecting Niagara Transit. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having us today. Okay, well, good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Carla Stout. I am the General Manager at Niagara Transit. This is Jordan Hamilton, our Chief of Staff at Transit. And we're here just to address the committee at the request and invitation of Mr. Spezza and Team Niagara. Actually, this is a presentation that we gave to the economic development groups across Niagara. I want to say it was at least a month ago. So we're reiterating a little bit of the same information here for the committee, but it's really just to cover some of the connective tissue that's being created between transit and economic development interests across the region of Niagara. So today on the agenda, we're going to talk about that connection between economic development in Niagara and Niagara Transit, the new transit authority, our master plan, and how that connects into all of the good work that the ECDEV groups are doing across Niagara. Jordan's going to walk you through a new local area municipality input policy that our board has just approved, I believe last month. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits not only of working together, but what working together really looks like from a transit perspective going forward. So that connection that we're talking about really comes down to moving people. Transit is a 100% human service, delivering 100% service to 100% human beings. So what we hear intrinsically from Niagara business owners is that they need a network that is going to get more people to work, more workers to their facilities, people being able to cross boundaries affordably, reliably, quickly. We've heard from the development community that they need increased service to developments to reduce things that are onerous on their development proposals, like parking standards, and to help them make more projects viable in their communities. So the new Niagara Transit Master Plan was approved by the board of directors last year in 2025. This is the first transit master plan that Niagara Transit has had. We are referring to this as our growth and investment strategy. The reason is it is designed for growth and it will require investment. What it's meant to do is to reimagine transit in Niagara. Regional council and a lot of the members on this committee that have worked, along with regional council through the amalgamation process since 2022 and certainly way before that, really were looking to reimagine how transit was delivered across Niagara. And that was the whole idea behind the amalgamation of transit authorities across the region. We're looking to integrate and improve efficiencies, get more people on transit, and improve the availability of it, responding to growth across the region. So this is a pretty interesting slide. It really gives you an understanding of where we are, but what we call this is where we're starting. So where we are starting is with a small number of intermunicipal regional routes, conventional network in the 3 largest cities in Niagara, and a fill-in service of microtransit service and specialized services for persons with disabilities that covers the rest of the gray area there in Niagara. Where we're going looks a lot different. What you're looking at there is what we would consider a spine regional intermunicipal network that would touch almost every municipality across Niagara, including making connections where there had never been connections before between municipalities. Again, providing first mile and last mile service in the grade areas that aren't being met within 400 meters of one of those bus routes. Included in the master plan in where we're going are things like rapid bus lines, express service, which provides for limited stops and acts as a precursor to rapid lines inside city boundaries. The expansion of regional routes from, I believe we have 4 regional routes, we would be expanding to 8. Corridor service, which is high frequency service, is in large arterial areas, much like, for the purposes of people who live in St. Catharines today, they would understand that they have corridor service on the 316 that goes between Brock and the downtown terminal. Base levels of service is 30-minute to 60-minute service on conventional routes, and community service can be hourly service in a local community area in a smaller urban center. Excuse me. Microtransit and specialized service at this time are commingled services on smaller vehicles and provided throughout the balance of the rest of the Niagara region for persons who are pre-booking service either as a specialized rider or a regular resident. So what will that mean? So at the end of that 10-year plan, after all of that growth and seeing all of that investment, this means that we're going to have more one-seat journeys. And what one-seat journeys are is negating the need for a rider to get off the bus to transfer. So what this creates is more comfortability and reliability in the system. When people are comfortable, when people can rely on a service, they will use it. It means faster trips, more frequent service, particularly in our higher demand areas in the larger cities across Niagara, and a greater than 50% reduction in trip denials on the existing commingled microtransit service now. We want to have access to service everywhere, anytime. Service enhancement is focused on more marginalized areas. We understand that more marginalized areas means rural areas that are significantly dependent on shuttle services or microtransit. And overall, this would improve the service efficiency by 66%. So I want to stop and spend some time here. This is really what got the conversation going at the Team Niagara table. And this is taking 2 pieces of information from 2 different areas of interest and putting those things together and really creating that connection that I was talking about at the beginning. The master plan, as you see it here, has just been overlaid with the signature sites that are at this time, being discussed or being developed, either regionally or with local municipalities for significant development or growth across the region. And so what you're seeing is developable areas popping up fairly close to where we have master planned for transit, but we're not exactly there. So this is a great example of sometimes the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. And that is the reason for this connection being made now. As local municipalities or the region of Niagara, get into further conversations or discussions with developers or industry stakeholders who are interested to come to Niagara to build out business, manufacturing, tourism, what have you. Really, transit needs to be a part of the conversation from the outset. It needs to be a part of the proposal that we are putting forward in front of developers when we are trying to bring them or when we're trying to attract them to Niagara. And part and parcel of doing that is telling them how we're going to get their workers to their locations. Just in my own personal experience, working in a municipality and then working for transit for almost a decade now, I will tell you that more often than not, I have the conversation about how are we going to get workers to this location after the location is built. That is 5 years too late. It takes 2 years to buy a bus. It takes 2 years in a budget process to get that operational. And it takes us a year to train and develop the people to deliver that service. So it is a proposition that needs to be discussed and it needs to be planned for, just like when you're planning for, for other levels of permit and license when you're speaking to developers. So part and parcel of that is having input from local area municipalities. And Jordan has worked with our board of directors to put a new policy in place to involve our local area municipalities in asking for what they need and what they want in transit going forward. So I'm going to let Jordan take the calm here and run you through a little bit about what that policy is.
Thanks, Carla, and good afternoon, everyone. So this new policy was really born out of the fact that we are seeing requests that were coming forward already with increasing frequency. There's a lot of, whether it's economic development or just municipalities that don't have service in certain areas, but there are more requests coming forward from the local municipalities wanting more transit service. So we thought it was important to put a formal policy in place so that there's a framework to follow, and that when motions are coming forward at local councils, they're being done with proper information and things like costs built in. Niagara Falls had a motion come forward that was included in our budget this year asking for service outside the urban boundary, which they hadn't had before. And we're very excited to bring that and start that in May. And I've had conversations with a few of the members of this committee actually about the new policy and areas that they want to see. So just to run through it very quickly, we'll work with you at each stage, but the first stage is just to get in touch with us and we'll help you bring a motion forward about what the problem is. So if it's bringing service to a certain area, if it's we've never had local service before, but identifying what that problem is and asking us through your council for that information. We would then prepare whatever the solutions, or if there's various proposals or options to pick from, and bring those to the local council. And then at that time, the council can choose to not or to pass a motion making that formal request that would go to our board. That way, as I think most know around the table, but all the local service hours are direct pass-through and paid for by the local municipalities. So it's very strong to bring it forward at budget time. If I'll pick on Mayor Ugolini, but if Mayor Ugolini's council says we need this service, it is our municipality that is paying for this service, that's why it's been included in the budget, then it's easy to make that argument at budget time because we have the support of him and his council. So just as one example. And so once that motion comes forward, it would come and passed, it would go to our board, and then we'll plan to include it in the budget process. It does go through still the regular budget process, so going through our board and then going to regional council. So, in the event that there's, say, a significant change, many different things happen. As we know, the world is quite volatile at the moment with tariffs and things like that. So if, say, the costs that were brought forward, there was a significant change to them, then at that time their board member can flag that and we can potentially have a different conversation. But that's essentially how that process will work going forward. We'll see how it goes, and there's always the opportunity to change it if it's not, but that's at least we have a framework to start from. So, and if you have any questions about that or are interested in bringing something forward, please get in touch with me at any time, and we're happy to get that ball rolling.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Jordan. So really, this is an opportunity to just remind, just not only the members of the committee, but Team Niagara members at the economic development agencies across Niagara about working together with transit. Transit is meant to be a tool, right? It is a tool in the toolbox of the region of Niagara to be used to move people and move persons, where they need to be. That is not just about reducing poverty. It is not just about, doctor's appointments. It's also, getting people to work. And one of the things that, we're celebrating at Transit right now and is going to be a part of the annual report that we bring forward is that, for the second year in a row, since amalgamation in 24 and now in 2025, adult working people in Niagara outnumber any other demographic on the bus, including UPass students. More people are using our service to get to work than ever. And it does link into things like efficiency, frequency, reliability. As we become all of those things, more people are going to use us as an affordable option to potentially buying that second car or, having to buy a first car. So how can we help each other? So connect us with the businesses that are asking you about transit. If you have someone coming through your stream who is asking about locations in your municipalities or is working with your planning or your economic development groups, please come and talk to us about transit. Particularly, one of the things that we were talking about in the hall is, a lot of light manufacturing or small manufacturers, when they come, they will build a business and they will expect to pay people, between $18 and $25 an hour. That is a living wage in Niagara. That is a wage that potentially, if you're in a 4-person family, cannot support a personal transportation vehicle. They are going to be looking for transit options. It makes sense that we have that conversation before they open their doors. Communicating to your municipalities about requests for enhanced service. Again, Jordan is here to work with local area municipalities on the process and the policy through the Board of Directors to look at augmenting local service in your areas. Please share the master plan. Having that map up in front of people and showing them where we're planning to go, particularly when you are talking about signature sites or sites in your municipality that you want to develop, and talking about how you want to get transit there. Absolutely share our resource materials. If we can help you provide that to anyone, we're more than willing to do that. And connect with us when you're working with companies on locations sooner rather than later. Like I said, it can be years before we have the resources available to augment or change or develop service. So the sooner you have us at the table to have those conversations, the better. Thank you for having us today. More than happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you. Is there any questions to our presenters today? Councillor Greenwood.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Oops, it's on, okay. First of all, thanks very much for the presentation. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
What part of Niagara Falls will be that transit area added to the Niagara Falls area?
Oh, excellent question. So through the chair, the former service in the city of Niagara Falls only provided specialized service, so that service for persons with disabilities, inside the area where buses were provided, the urban boundary. Mm-hmm. So anything to the north outside of the urban boundary, so I'm thinking High Portage Avenue, Mountain View, Fireman's Park is a great example, and anything below the southern limit of the urban boundary. So I'm thinking of the newly developed subdivisions at the south end of Chippewa. The new hospital
Right.
is not in your urban boundary in Niagara Falls. Those areas are going to be infilled with microtransit service to get people to the bus network. So we're going to be bringing that online. I think it's April 26th is our target date for that.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
And just one other question. I know we always want things done right away, or as my husband always says, Barb, you want it done yesterday. Well, yes, sort of, but I'm patient, really. But what is the timeframe for this expansion, which I think is really necessary, but what overall, and I'm sure it's not tomorrow, but as I say, just wondering, what do you suspect that may be?
So I'll leave it here through the chair. This is a 10-year plan.
10 years, okay.
So what you see here is to 2035,
Okay,
right? I can say that within the confines of our multi-year budget that was presented to council last year, which is our 26, 27, and 28 budget, you have the addition of the regional spine network there. So the routes that are going to Niagara-on-the-Lake, Grimsby and beyond, the West Niagara link, and then the Fort 2 Falls link between Fort Erie and Port Colborne being filled in. That's 4 routes that we're scheduling inside that timeframe for 2028.
okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I appreciate that, and I do apologize for these questions, as I haven't been sitting around the table listening to this full discussion. I hope I haven't been too repetitive. I'm sure you already knew all that, but anyway, I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Kaiser.
Thank you, Chair. Greatly appreciate it. Carla and Jordan, thank you so much for your presentation. Greatly appreciated. And we'll be glad to see those extended routes come on sooner than later, as that's been kind of the topic of a lot of our questions and response from our communities and new subdivisions, especially. They're always asking the question is, when are we going to see bus service? And I have to tell you, I've had to say we're not, because we have to improve the service we have. The question that I have is that this has come up a number of times at our committee meetings in regards to the specialty trips. In your presentation on slide 9, it says, what will this mean is basically, it says greater than 50% reduction in specialty trip denials. It's been something that is a frequent caller, and I'm just wondering, how are we going to achieve that? Because as some people that may not know around the table, people just use that to go to hairdressers, to do whatever, and not so much as the doctor's appointments and whatnot. Can you just elaborate and kind of share how you're going to achieve that?
Sure.
you.
Through the chair. So I want to be very clear that the commingled microtransit system serves 2 levels of service. So it has a component of it that is dedicated to persons with disabilities, which is our specialized service. And then it has an on-demand component, which is the fill-in in Niagara Falls of getting people that first mile, last mile to a bus, right? Or a bus stop where they can make connections. The specialty trip denials, although trending downward, which is good news for us, have been significant since we began. The issue being that demand is outstripping the amount of service that we can actually put on the road for the amount of money that council and our board of directors is comfortable paying for it. So the idea of reducing trip denials is by putting buses in proximity to the people who are over-utilizing the on-demand system, and potentially taking those trips out of the system that are available for specialized customers. So as you add more buses and people have more proximity and access to bus routes, they will use a bus because they know it's coming every half hour or every hour. They do not have to pre-book it. They do not have to wait 7 days for a trip. They do not have to have their lives so organized that way. They can be more nimble. They can be more flexible with their own time. They will move to a bus. That will increase the capacity on specialized trips. which will reduce the amount of times we have to tell people we don't have a trip available for you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you through the chair. That's very good to know. Just another question through the chair. On the map that you're showing us back on the slide, sorry, what is it? Yes, that one, thank you. It's very aggressive compared to our, I shouldn't say aggressive, but it's very spread out and it covers a lot more territory. And I know that you said that it's a 10-year plan. Based on budget, obviously, are you going to look at this in sections to continue to get to this map in the way it looks? I guess I'm just asking, like, or
Can I just ask for a clarification? Are you asking me, am I going to be looking at this by municipality?
well, I don't really want to say municipality because I like to say the region.
Okay.
To be fair, but it really is expanding in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping that you're going to tell me that, yes, it will gradually be growing out. This entire map will look like this at the end of 10 years is what you're provided. So I guess that's what I'm asking, because I'm looking to see, like, how are we going to get there?
Sure. Sure. Well, through the chair. So how we look at it as transit planners is we look at it as levels of service. So rather than focusing on where the level of service is going to be, it's what is going to be the level of service. So the level of service overall right now, we have an existing conventional network in the 3 largest cities. They have the ridership and they have the population to support that, right? So that's not going to change, right? That will be augmented over time, and that's going to depend on ridership. Right? We will be bringing things to our board incrementally over budget years that can be supported by data that says we have the ridership that's going to be able to support the rapid bus lines in Niagara Falls. You can see the heavy red lines there. That is anywhere from 7 to 15-minute service contemplated on a rapid bus line. Right now, we don't have the ridership that would require nor support a rapid bus line. Even on Lundy's Lane in the middle of July, we don't have that. But that's coming, and we know that that's coming because our ridership continues to increase by the million year over year, essentially. So we know that that's going to happen. But the balance of the build out, like I said, in the 3 years of the multi-year budget, we're already anticipating to put the extended regional routes in place. That's how you reduce the capacity on the microtransit, which we were just talking about, right? And increase capacity for specialized trips. It brings more people to the bus network. It increases ridership on the buses overall, and it gets them into the network in the city that they're trying to access. So it's incremental, and it's layered by service level based on the number of rides that we're achieving year over year over year over year. You don't want to overextend the service into if you build it, they will come. You want to have the data that shows that if you put it there, people are going to take it, right?
Good. Thank you so much, because I think that was something that is very important that everybody hears, and our residents and people that are living in those areas, that it's not going to happen tomorrow. There is a growth plan, and I truly appreciate that explanation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kaiser, sorry.
No worries. Thank you, Chair. Through you, nice to see you both again.
Yeah.
So I promised at budget to put a pin in my question, so now I'm going to ask it. And you've kind of touched on it regarding a process in place now for local area municipalities to request service. I guess the sort of fine hair of the question that I have is, so it sounds like you've got this regional route, perhaps you said, I think I heard 2028 for Niagara and the Lakes slated as per the master plan. So is the LAM supposed to ask for implementation, in which case it might, Niagara and Lake, for example, might not need to, of what's shown on the master plan? Or in the question I had is what would be the process, let's say, the mayor and I are looking at a lack of linkage with St. David's. Is that what the request is to add that to the master plan? I just wanted to understand that process so I could share that back with the municipality.
Sure, and through the chair, and Jordan can speak to the actual mechanism of, how that works between your council and the board of directors for transit. Generally speaking, what you see on the master plan is, I like to call it a pirate's guideline.
Okay.
It's more, this is aspirational, but, we understand that, buses don't move like crows, right? So where you see straight lines, we obviously are going to be having conversations with communities about what works. And a perfect example of that actually is what was budgeted in this year, which is the introduction of a community bus in Fort Erie.
Right.
So perfect example of what you're asking. The town of Fort Erie started asking in 2024 for us to install a community bus. We did not have the asset and we didn't have the budget at that time to do it. But we worked with the town of Fort Erie to bring that forward in another motion from their council in 2025 to include that in the 26 budget. And regional council and the board saw fit to pass that budget. So April 26th, 2026, we are going to be launching a new community route in Fort Erie. That community route does not look exactly like the lines on that map that you see in Fort Erie. We worked with town officials, we worked with their engineering and their groups at the town with regards to boiling down our data where we know our riders go, and worked with them on what's the best place for bus stops, those sorts of things. But it's not an exact match, right? So part of the land policy process is to get in your motion, what are the expectations of the municipality that you're looking for in and from us as transit planners going forward in a request coming forward.
Okay, that helps, and perhaps Niagara Lake is already working on something, but I will chat with my colleagues there and just better understand the process, so I appreciate the explanation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, Councillor Ugalini.
Through you. And Carla and Jordan, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. And I know, Jordan, I've spoken about enhanced service and the process, which I get through that previous explanation with Councillor Kaiser, I picked up on a few things. But I guess my question is, like our big growth areas, Rolling Meadows and Port Robinson West, which we're getting a lot of requests. So if council decides they want to pay for enhanced service and then we work with youth, I guess my question is, what's a rough timeline? Is that a couple of years?
So through the chair, rough timeline, it really does come down to resources, Mary Ugolini. So it really is, when can I get the buses? Running a 30-minute service. So on a regular route, a 30-minute service is at a minimum 2 buses, right? So that I'm, making those connections, right? Those 2 buses can take 2 years to get, right? They have to be capitally planned for, and then we have to operationally, plan for the increase in resources to run the service. So you are looking at a minimum of 2 years to get conventional bus service.
Right.
Right? There are other options,
And
we can work on costing those and taking a look at, is there an interim step? Is there a way to introduce service in areas that don't have service now? By either expanding the existing conventional network that we have. The areas that you're talking about have conventional bus network very close to them, but it's from the city of Welland.
No, I know, but
So now that it's a regional system, there might be efficiencies and things that we can look at
Port
that way.
Robinson West would, probably be the Welland. The one in
Correct.
Rolling Meadows, I think we do still have a
Yes.
small bus up in that.
Yes.
But the point is that to get to where we want to go, there's different options. And we'll work with yous and see what those options are and what the costing is.
Yep.
But expectations, we're probably looking at a few years, though.
Yes, and I'm might be off by a couple of years, but I don't believe that you have had a significant route change in over 20 years in
know.
Thorold. So we won't change it overnight, but we're definitely willing to work with councils to understand what the needs are, and then we can work with staff to put both data-driven decision-making in front of you so that you're making the right choice, and cost analysis so that you understand what you're asking your citizenry to bear.
And one thing we're lucky with is our location in the hub downtown. As long as we can get them to a hub, then they have a multitude of options in front of them.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Councillor Foster.
Okay, thanks a lot, Chair Seaborn. So Carla and Jordan, thanks for the presentation. And if I had forgot the two you were coming in today, I should have stayed there because I would have rather stared you in the eye as I asked my questions. So you'll have to do the staring of the eyes through the video. So I tell you, with transit these days, and what I'm hearing within the community, so this is just information coming back in and through, is that people really like it, particularly here in Lincoln, and here in the West End. I mean, it's very well liked. The particularly, I have friends that make use of the accessibility transit and stuff like that to get out and about. But they have to schedule so far ahead of time to make sure that they're actually going to get a ride. Okay. I was at an event recently where I had a young lady who was a server at the restaurant that we were at, and she came running over to me saying, I love it, I love it, I love it. But every once in a while, I get offered, to work another couple of hours on my on shift work, and there's no flexibility comes into play. I mean, you either hit the time you're supposed to go or not, and so there's a lot of teething things that are going on with this, or maybe just, I don't know, it's because of the success that we've got going on down in our area with it, and of course every time you come in front of Lincoln Council, you end up being bombarded with questions about costs and stuff like that. I don't do that to you, but anyway. So the question to you is, you know, the type of transit that we are currently having out in our community is working, and it's working incredibly well, but it needs to be better yet. And so, like when we're talking about the having the buses, we're talking about Highway 8. Basically, is one of the routes and stuff like that that's going to have a fixed bus at some point. Can I confidently go back to the community as well, saying sooner than later on some of these things?
Well, through the chair, to you, Councillor Foster, the route that you're referencing is at the top of the map. It is anticipated in our 3-year budget process. We would be back in our 27 budget asking for the capital to purchase those buses. We will need 10 of them to achieve that. You know how much they cost. You've been at the Oval for a while, and you know how long it takes to get them. It takes 2 years to have buses, particularly because we only have 2 bus manufacturers in Canada, and only one of them is actually a 100% Canadian endeavor to deliver buses across Canada. But the operation of that line would be coming forward likely in September 2028. When you talk about capacity, the only way to build capacity on the microtransit service for the people who live farther than 400 meters from that bus route is to really turn those shuttles into a first mile, last mile endeavor. And what that means is that you would be picking people up, again, like we do today, curb to curb at their home or at their place of business or their place of worship, but you would be taking them to a bus stop. They would be taking the bus to make transfers either into the conventional network or onto the community buses that are now available in their own small urban center, municipality, township, city, what have you. I would say that microtransit isn't just popular, it has outstripped the popularity of your ability to pay for it. And it will continue to do so. And the only way to manage or maintain that cost and to create a system that actually meets the needs for people who live rurally is to introduce bus. Buses are frequent. They are on time, 84% of the time. And they're there, right? Hourly. So you can manage your trip. Your server would have had no problem taking an extra shift if she knew that she could get to a bus stop and she could take that bus to her place of work. Because the capacity on the microtransit service would be greatly increased. Maybe we're not telling people that they have to pre-book their trips 7 to 14 days in advance. Maybe we have enough capacity at that point for them to start booking same-day service. That's the goal.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, exactly, and that's it's going to take all of this stuff from working really good to being incredibly great. So, and I know that's what you're aiming for. I listen to you all the time, Carla, and I know that that's where you're aiming for. Just you made one mention about developments and stuff like that, and we know Thorold is growing like a weed. We know Welland is growing like crazy. We know that Niagara Falls. We know Lincoln is growing like crazy. And we have massive development coming in there. So have you had the discussions with the municipalities on some of these other potential items? I'm thinking in particular with Lincoln Prudhoms. I mean, that's a monster development that's at its early stages. So I'm just curious if those discussions have gone on.
So through the chair, that's exactly what this conversation is meant to initiate.
Yeah.
And the link that George has provided us to Team Niagara, to the economic development, either dedicated staff in local municipalities or here at the region, so that when you do have a major developer that is looking at a rural area, that they aren't going to create themselves essentially an employment island, which, has gone on in the past. We're very aware. We were just talking the other day. There is a major tourism provider here in Niagara who has all of their food created and cooked inside the city of St. Catharines and then shipped to their hotel because they cannot get enough people to their hotel to cook the food. So, we understand that there are employment islands across Niagara. This 10-year plan is not going to solve all of that. But if we're working with economic development and we're working with stakeholders who are looking to invest in Niagara and we're out ahead of the conversations, we'd be a lot further along than 2 years out having mayors or councils receiving presentations from business owners who felt lured to a community and now can't get workers to their locations.
Yeah, thank you for that. And through you, Madam Chair, the lower area municipalities are the ones that have had most of the planning issues come back and in. So, I know George and his team will have a fascination with all of this, but we have to make sure the lower tiers are the ones that are involved because there's the ones that are making the decisions on the subdivisions and when they're going and all that type of stuff. So, my last thing for you, Carla, and just I want to thank you. We had mentioned it in our earlier corporate services meeting, but the I will call it the benefits that you and I talked about, like helping people out. What a success, and I just want to thank you for following through on that. When I walk away from things that I do at Niagara Region, I look at that one as saying, that was a very worthwhile action. So thank you to Transit for doing that.
Well, you're most welcome. And through the chair, just put a little context on the councillor's thoughts. We introduced the Transit Benefit Pass and we administrate that with the SAEO office here at the Region of Niagara. They actually take the intake for persons who are either on ODSP or Ontario Works or who meet a low-income threshold across Niagara for either, single people or families that meet that threshold. In the first 6 months that we have offered that pass, we have sold 338% more passes to persons who are in economic hardship across Niagara, and that's good news for not only for the people who need that service, but also for transit. They are paying customers and are supporting the service that is out there for them. So we're really proud of that program, Councillor, and thank you and Corporate Services actually for supporting that for us last year. And
thank you, Madam Chair. That's it for me.
Thank you. We Have Councillor Olson next then, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Carla and Jordan. I appreciate that presentation. It's very interesting to me to see that we're not talking about variations and weaknesses now. We're talking about rising expectations and more quality things for people. That's a development that it really speaks highly of our plan that we have, and I think our plan is a great plan. One of the points I wanted to make is that there is another economy other than the employment economy, and that's the silver economy that I'm a strong part of. Maybe the white economy, I don't know what it is. But there's a whole bunch of older adults out there whose lives might be limited by their mobility and caregiving responsibilities and finances and fragility and I guess social isolation. They should not be considered irrelevant or invisible, and I know you don't. So what steps are we taking to increase the number of trips for those type of people as well?
Well, through the chair, our beloved silver members at Niagara Transit, they take a variety of our services. We have very able and very agile seniors that are absolutely dependent on the conventional network. Yeah. One of the things through the fare harmonization project that the board approved last year and that regional council supported going to the $3.50 fare was a further reduction in the concession fare for seniors. So the seniors pass is actually only 55% of the cost of what it actually would cost an adult to buy a pass in Niagara for that 31-day pass. And the concessions even get better as you go on a 10-ride pass, et cetera. So I think we're meeting seniors where we need to from an economic standpoint. What we can do better, and thank you for the comment about where we're at in our fourth year, going into our fourth year. I finally feel like we're building, not fixing. We need to build a system that is broader and creates the kind of access that seniors need. Seniors want to age in place. Seniors want to stay in their homes, whether they lose mobility, whether they develop a disability, and they have to leave the conventional network and they have to access our specialized transit services. We have to have the system in place that makes that viable. And to do that, again, we're going to be looking at capacity. And capacity building on the specialized service to take over from those people who can no longer enjoy the conventional service, which is going to be growing in leaps and bounds and should be meeting the needs for able seniors. That's the piece of the puzzle as far as I see it, of creating that connection for the people who are no longer going to be able to get on a bus. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And I believe you might have said this even, efficiency and innovation must go hand in hand.
Yes.
And I see the possibilities from that being in the area of queuing and that type of thing and scheduling, because I think that's where the real savings and the real opportunity lies for reducing costs is in those two areas alone.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree with you, Councillor. Through the chair for the committee's information, one of the things that we have done in getting here, within the first 3 years of amalgamation, is we do not have a transit planner. The work that you see here, we have done with a consultant, we have done with staff, we're doing on expertise and experience. We are going to be coming to our board with a lot of innovation and efficiencies, but we are also going to augment our numbers internally within our budget with, actual transit planning, right? And a transit planner to work this program and to work this plan to fruition for us.
Thank you, Chair. So does that mean we're gonna have a consultant that's gonna repeat secondhand what the staff has told them?
No, sir. We're going to have a transit planner on staff.
I hate to bring that up.
We'll have a planner on staff that is actually going to be dedicated to the work of bringing this forward precisely to the point of what Councillor Morocco was asking about in incremental stages. What do we introduce first? What can be data supported and where is the ridership developing? That is not something that you do just only through scheduling. That's something that you have to plan, 1, 2, 3 years out, especially in a plan that is this aggressive.
And finally, Chair, if I might, I was wondering about when you launched the Fort Erie service in April, the vehicles that are freed up from microtransit vehicles, they will be distributed to the other municipalities that rely on microtransit?
So through the chair, when the community bus takes the road in April, the balance of service hours that are available on the microtransit service that we pay for through the contract to our contractor Voyago would become available across the system. So yes, ultimately that means more capacity across the system. And to Councillor Foster's earlier comments, hopefully what we're hoping for is we're hoping that we're going to see, a reduction in people's need to have to book ahead so much. Yeah.
And will that also mean fewer denials as well?
That's exactly the math that is supposed to math out of that,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm seeing no other speakers, so I would like to thank the two of you very much for your presentation today.
you.
And I know there's a report coming up a little later that we'll take into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joseph.
We have no items for consideration. We do, however, have some consent items for information. So ED 3-2026, Investment Attraction Update. I'll call Eric Cho at this time, Manager of Trade and Investment, for the presentation respecting foreign direct investment. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Councillors. Pleasure to be back again. I think my last update was in September of last year, so I will get right into it. So what has happened since then? In terms of just our pipeline and companies we've been talking to since September, we've talked to actually 31 companies as leads. These are the lukewarm let's just get to know Niagara. Of that, we now have opportunities, which is actually 15 since this report was created. And those are companies that actually have an interest in Niagara and that we were following up with. I think in my previous report in September, I talked about Project Fender, which was an opportunity at $100 million and 100 jobs. They are still in their due diligence. We are confident that they will make their final decision and announce something this year. It's very interesting, right? Project Fender has been going on for 7, 8, 9, 10 months. We know that Asai Kase made their decision in 9 months. So each client is different. Each client takes a certain amount of care and time to convince that this is the right decision. And this particular client is just taking a little more of that time. How do we get to fill our pipeline? So one of the activities that we do on a regular basis, we participate with our partners, Global Affairs Canada. They do 2 trips a year to markets overseas. And from that, we've had a number of interests, number of opportunities. From the spring trip last year, a potential battery pack assembly company, that they're looking at a joint venture with a local company. And so we're hoping that those discussions go well because I think that makes a good fit here in Niagara. Project High Beam was a medical materials facility. Unfortunately, we were just notified that they didn't choose us, and it was a medical isotopes facility. They were looking more for an ecosystem that had research and medical research. So somewhere like Hamilton with McMaster University, something like Kingston with Queen's Sciences up there. So we had a good site. We just didn't have the supporting ecosystem around it, and those things will happen. Project Lux is an aerospace manufacturing facility, which we're talking to. Through further research, we understand it was more of a financing play that they require first before they could actually begin the site selection process. So these are some of the things that we deal with. Last year, and was our 4th year at Hanover Messa, and it was Canada as the partner country. Through introductions we had there, 2 Niagara companies are talking with a marine manufacturer that could potentially result in some fairly sizable investments in Niagara. Some of the events that we've hosted to showcase Niagara. Life Sciences Ontario, we have an emerging sector in life sciences with the new Niagara South Hospital. We're hoping to build around that. So we hosted the Southern Ontario Roadshow with Life Sciences Ontario. 20 individuals from that industry came to Brock. There was 10 virtual, and we showcased some of the new innovations, some of the startup companies coming out of Brock, some of the other companies in the region that are in that life sciences to kind of showcase what we are doing here. Global Startups, their boot camp, this is an incubator that we've partnered with over the last 4 years. Great opportunities there. They had 17 international entrepreneurs come to Niagara for a day. One of them was actually accepted by the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub to actually be in the readiness, investor readiness program. So that's fantastic that, they came, they saw, they were also in Hamilton, but now they're going to start their journey at the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub. We also executed the Foreign International Trade Training Program in partnership with our Hamilton colleagues. 14 local companies participated in that, and that was the opportunity for them to learn more about how to take advantage of new markets, foreign markets other than the U.S. And as we know, that's a very important feature right now. We also hosted a number of folks from the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade from specifically their defense sector. And as we know, there is going to be a very large spend in the defense sector. So we are working very closely with the Invest Ontario team, MedCat, to kind of showcase what our companies can make, because we can make anything in Niagara. Now it's the opportunity to showcase it to those people who will talk to some of those prime first foreign suppliers that are going to be saying, if we want to be in the Canadian market, we're going to have to produce in Canada. If they land here, we have that regional supply chain that can actually provide them with the parts to make the final product. These are just some of the pictures. This was the Global Startups group visiting the region. This is photos from the Life Sciences Ontario Roadshow. And what will we be doing this year? So again, it is really just continuous work of following up on leads, participating in different events to build our pipeline, to build that network of companies that are starting to learn about Niagara. We will utilize the Global Affairs lead generation during the road shows. We will work with the consul generals in Toronto, host some diplomatic delegations when they have international business delegations come to Canada. We've extended the offer that we will host them for a day to showcase what we have here to get them interested in Niagara. Pursuing the defense sector opportunities, we are working with the NIA to actually do a session later in April to talk about what's coming down the pipe from the federal government in terms of defense, how some organizations like the BDC, MedCat, FedDev have money to support companies to ramp up their qualifications and opportunities to take advantage of those government defense contracts. And we're always, working on our relationships with Invest Ontario, Global Affairs Canada, Invest in Canada, to say, we're here to work with you, to be your collaborators, to showcase Niagara. I think that's it.
Well, thank you. Do we have any questions for our speaker? I'm seeing none, so you did an amazing job. Oh,
Oh,
we have Councillor Olson got in under the wire there.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, when you look at defense manufacturing, the batch size is going to be much smaller than automotive. Like, I'm thinking maybe the range 250,000 is a automotive factory a year. I'm thinking perhaps 5,000, 10,000. It's a different style of manufacturing entirely. What is the ecology that backs up that, which is different than automotive or high scale, high tempo production like that? It's a totally different type of manufacturing.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. I think what you're going to be looking at is dual use. Like we have, historically automotive manufacturing, that is going to be pivoted into a dual use opportunity. Now, the thing is, we don't know yet what the Canadian government and the armed forces is going to request of us. There's going to be opportunities for companies in Niagara who are in the building to basically rebuild the barracks, the buildings, the hangars, and everything like that. So that's one type of manufacturing. The others will be, let's say, if it's a mobile howitzer, they will need tires. They will need, axles. They will need different things that we have that experience. What we're hoping to do in April is actually to help some of these companies that haven't been in the defense sector to say, to qualify for a government contract, you need to have a controlled goods certificate. You need to have ISO certificates to ensure the quality that you have. Some of these companies may have them, but I think this is an opportunity to showcase or to tell them what exactly they need, because if they just think, okay, the government is going to come down in 2 years with a PO for $250,000 for a widget. I can make a widget, but they don't have those prerequisites. Now's the time for them to secure those certificates so that when it does come down, they'll be ready. And what we don't want is our companies to miss that opportunity. I don't know if that really answered your question, but
I know something about howitzers and things, and we actually have 28 of them.
Okay.
That's what we have, and the things that work out are the barrels. They wear out faster than the weapon itself.
Mm-hmm.
And what you need is ammunition. So is there, like all these things are all based upon some pretty high tech tooling and machining type things, and just to suggest that's where it would go.
yeah. Well, I think there's going to be all sorts of different areas that the Canadian government's going to be spending money.
Yeah.
And, if we can get a percentage of that, whether it's ammunition casings, whether it's tires, I think there is opportunity. So, but again, we don't know yet what the Canadian government is asking for. And I think that's the biggest unknown that Canadian industry is facing. There is a Canadian industrial strategy, but we still don't know what it is that they need.
Yeah.
Having discussions with the NIA, we know we can make it. We just don't know what to make yet.
Yeah. Yeah, but we do know that we are a center for shipbuilding.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
something so we can reverse engineer and provide the supply chain that needs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And through the chair, I think some of you may have seen the announcement, I think 2-3 weeks ago, Ontario Shipyards did sign a MOU with Hanwha, which is one of the 2 international companies vying for the Canadian Patrol Sub project.
Yeah.
So good opportunity there. In light of that, I've actually registered for a Canada-Korea workshop next week at York University to be introduced to that Korean business ecosystem to try to figure out how we can work with them. And I think, one of the trips we'll be doing with Global Affairs is this June. It's their Innovation Roadshow. We're going to Japan and Korea. So again, another opportunity to talk to the Koreans to say, hey, what can we do to support you?
Yeah. And finally, Chair, I think you're right about the medical business, because we're in the middle of this dynamic of the demographic is going to grow, and we're right in the center of it. And Chair Bradley always said that he thought we should be a center with a new hospital of some
Absolutely.
kind of a geriatric or aging study kind of a place. So
No, through the chair, we certainly are, and Brock University has a very strong program in geriatrics.
Yeah.
And so I think if we can highlight that, we use that as an attractor. And Brock is a great partner. And I think we had President Leslie Rigg here a couple of sessions ago.
I have many questions, Chair, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Olson. Councillor Woodavine, you're next.
No, thank you, Chair Seaborn, and to Eric, thanks for the update. I guess I was just jumping in to just kind of get a feel from you of how the competition is generally out there to try to attract these type of new investments. Are we in pretty stiff competition with other areas to try to, I guess, attract that employment? And so I was just kind of, I guess, looking for a bit of a pulse of what's going on out there, if it's getting vicious or not. So maybe you can enlighten me.
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor Wintelveen. It is very competitive. If we're not doing it, other municipalities are. So we need to be in the marketplace. I like to think we're very competitive. I think we have a very compelling story to tell. But you know, I watch a lot of our competitor municipalities out there, and I see where they go. And you know, this week, I know that SOMA, which is the Southern Ontario Marketing Alliance, which is Ingersoll, Chatham, there's I think 5 or 6 municipalities. They're in Korea this week. They're talking to the Koreans as a group. Just last week, I know that there was a partnership between London, Hamilton, and Waterloo, and they went to Japan as a group. So there is a lot of people, a lot of municipalities that are investing in international travel to be out there. And it is a tough market to be in because you can't do it just once. You have to make a commitment to spend the money to be there because it is really about building relationships and being in market. We were in Japan last year for the Japanese Society of Automotive Engineers conference, and Mayor of Woodstock, their ACDEV team, they were there. We joined a couple meetings with a couple of Japanese business industry things, and that was their 20th year in market, like physically being in market in Japan for 20 years. And you look at what Woodstock has secured, fantastic, but it's taken them 20 years. And I'm going to say I've been in market 4 years. I've been in Japan twice or 2 years in a row. And that was really more because of the Asahi Kasei investment. So it's very competitive. It's tough, but it's a challenge I enjoy, if I can say that.
Councillor Wintelveen, George Biza wants to answer your question as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and through you to the councillor. And just to supplement some of Eric's comments in terms of the competition, I sit on the board of directors of what's called the Consider Canada Cities Alliance. It's 14 of the largest communities that do investment promotion, similar work that we do across Canada. So the Vancouvers, Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, all of our biggest municipalities and regions across the country. We had a board of directors meeting in February, and I can tell you this, the competition is very fierce amongst even our Canadian competition. The defense sector has trillions of dollars in procurement that's going to be spent not just by our federal government, but governments as part of NATO over the next several years. And everyone is onto that, including our provincial government, who's just recently actually named an agent general that's specializing in defense, that's based out of Bangkok. That was a recent announcement by the provincial government. So I would just say that the competition is very fierce. I think we're in the game on this. We recognized this about 7-8 months ago, understanding what was coming down from NATO. And I think we're well positioned to not just support our local companies and get them ready for the procurement coming up, but certainly to be in this very competitive world of investment attraction, including the defense sector. So I can speak on behalf of the board and what I hear from my colleagues on that board across Canada. It's very competitive, and everyone is chasing this kind of investment.
Thank you,
Okay,
Director.
thank you, gentlemen. Nothing further, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wintelveen. Councillor Steele, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good to see you again, Eric. A few things. As you know, hopefully you know, Eric, the Port Colborne Drop Forge in our backyard here is in the defense industry. So it's good to hear that. Let's hope that you guys can work with them as well as our ACDEV team here at Port Colborne I'm sure they're already in touch, but making sure that they are in touch with the federal government with regards to the defense spending. But on another note, with regards to your report here today, I didn't see anything in there with for the dollars that the feds and the province are putting into the port industries right across Canada, and both Ontario and the federal government are talking about a Great Lakes port system, Port Colborne being one of those, as well as, we've got Thorold and St. Catharines right along the Welland Canal up into Windsor, through to Sault Ste. Marie, which is reestablishing their port there with Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority, and then into Thunder Bay, and Thunder Bay is making a lot of changes as we move along. Are we talking to both the Marine Office in Ontario and the federal government in just regards to how we can bolster the ports here as we move up because of the trade corridor that we're embarking on? Vance spoke about this last night at our council meeting. This is something we've worked on in Port Colborne for many years, but I didn't hear anything in here about that. So can you just give us an update where we are in these discussions? And because we know we have to move quick because that money's not going to be there down the road. We got to start putting infrastructure in the ground now for this stuff.
Great, thank you, Mayor Steele, for the question, and through you, the chair. I will say, I have not had conversations with those offices. I will say that I have been talking to the other proponent in the Canada sub bid process, the German TKMS, and have developed some very good relationships. So being more focused on how we can bring their investment and opportunities to their supply chain has kind of been where I've focused. Being at PDAC, the Prospection and Development Association of Canada conference last week, I did meet their senior VP of procurement for the subs. So looking at it more from a tactical and company opportunity, I can't say I've been involved with the policy side as much, unfortunately.
Okay, may I suggest that through you and George and your team that we
Absolutely.
start getting in that? Because quite frankly, we know how the international stuff is going, and Eric and we were in Japan together. We knew, that the Asahi Kase is an anomaly on how things happen. I mean, it happened quick, as you mentioned. Those don't happen overnight. That they do take some take years to establish. But the back and forth between us going to Japan and many trips by the Japanese to Niagara with regards to that facility. So I agree with you there. But on the marine stuff, I mean, a lot of this is homegrown economic development. Just a week and a half ago, Algoma purchased Lower Lake Shipping, so they now have their fleet. We know that Allied Marine here in Port Colborne has the Swiss contract for the new green marine engine, across North America. We know what Heddle, or Ontario Shipyards, the old former Heddle yard, Ontario Shipyards has done. I spoke to them before I left on vacation with regards to their MOU with the Korean company. So, I mean, these things are starting to spin and starting to go. But quite frankly, for a lot of this stuff to move, investments need to be made in our ports right across the Great Lakes. We know that green marine and shipping in the marine industry, short sea shipping with purpose-built container ships. I know 2 yards in Europe through our association with the St. Lawrence Seaway Authority and the conferences they run. They're going to be building purpose-built ships that will take containers from Halifax and primarily Montreal and get them into the Great Lakes. Because as we know, the ships that bring those across from overseas are too big to get into through the canal system. So now these companies are starting to build these, and they're building them now. I mean, they take years to build, as we know, but they're building them now. So I think it's imperative that we start talking to people like Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority and our federal and provincial offices with regards to how these dollars are going to be spent. And who actually is going to be benefiting from these, like the companies coming in here and bringing people in that need dock space, that need warehousing, whatever it may be in the marine industry, the repair business, as you know, and you've already talked about Ontario Shipyards. But again, Allied Marine, they're looking at 50+ ships stopping in Port Colborne with regards to this new marine engine for repairs and installations and all kinds of stuff. So, it's going to be a big boom to our economy here in Port Colborne, but that affects everything across Niagara. So if I can suggest that on how we can move forward with that, and if you need any help with regards to that, I mean, Vance and I have been doing this for a lot of years. When he was mayor, when he was in federal government, with a couple of associations that I'm on, in the marine industry that, they're chomping at the bit for things to happen here in Niagara and across right up to Thunder Bay. So again, this is not going to be 5 years down the road. It's got to happen now, so these things can get moving. So just a suggestion. Thanks, Eric and George. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. We have Councillor Kaiser next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, thank you. Nice to see you, Eric. So I guess I'll just kind of tag on to what Councillor Steele was just speaking about, and I think it just really plays into the conversation around our competitive advantages. And just, I am leading to a question. So regarding if we are looking at a sector, I certainly understand the desire to follow a trend in terms of, let's say, defense spending. We know that's evolving, but when I think of the example you provided with the medical investment, looking to Kingston, Waterloo, Hamilton, because there is that network there, I sometimes think we, and I could be wrong, maybe forget sort of our competitive advantages, much like the marine that was just mentioned. And for me, coming from the industry, just curious if we are trying to leverage and access what we have here in terms of the agricultural assets. Brock University, of course, I know you work very closely, Vineland Research Station, but are we exploring and sort of laser focused on things that are maybe technologically based? I think people forget how technological and high-tech farming, winemaking can be, whether it's grapes or other farming. So are we pursuing that sort of manufacturing investment? Because that's what we have here. When I think about the medical investment, moving to an area that has that, I feel like that should be something, as well as marine, that we should be focusing on. So I'm just curious if we are doing that as well.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll respond to that question. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Absolutely. So, we did mention defense. We mentioned, our successful attraction of a SAIC and the transformation, the EV sector, but that's not it. I mean, our economic development strategy identified a number of emerging sectors. That was a key reason why we did a new 10-year ECDEF strategy. We wanted to ensure that our economy was being diversified and that we were investing and growing some of these emerging sectors. One of also which is, of course, our agricultural sector is a large sector. Lots of great innovation in agriculture. We just recently came forward through the APEC committee and adopted a new agriculture action plan. So we're implementing that action plan. We're showcasing the opportunities and the innovation that currently exists in agriculture in Niagara. But beyond that, it's also about the marine sector that was also identified in our 10-year strategy. It is also about our IT and telecom sector. It's our aerospace sector as well. So these are emerging sectors that are identified. We did talk, as I said, defense and others, but these are all part of the plan for us in terms of our foreign direct investment and targeting companies that suit our sectors and that we think we have a competitive advantage in many of these sectors. So yes, we're doing that as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Through the chair, I think also is that we have a colleague on the team, Matt McGinty, who is actually focused on the agricultural file. So I may not actually be doing a lot of that. It's you can't do everything.
No, thank you, through you, Chair. I think that sometimes I feel like people forget about the relationship between high tech and agriculture. I was in Japan visiting with the Ontario delegate there in terms of investment and export, and we had a long conversation about just that often people forget there are some very good manufacturing jobs that are associated with the high tech related to agriculture. And I just want to kind of remind everyone in the room, to me, that's not an emerging sector. That's a sector that exists here, much like medical in Hamilton or Kingston. I feel like we need to leverage what we are already doing. And so thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Kaiser. Any other questions for our presenter? Seeing none, thank you so much for the presentation today. And I wonder if I can get a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Ugolini and Councillor Morocco. Okay. So the report is there. Okay, so I'm seeing no other questions, no other comments. So can you please vote electronically? And that's passed. We're now down to let's see, we have no other consent items, right? Okay. Does any other member of the committee wish to vote on either of the remaining consent items separately? That would be the economic development update or the Niagara Transit update. Okay. Okay, then I'd like to have them voted on as a block. Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder to take these forward? Councillor Rigby and Councillor Olson. Okay, then I'll have if there's no discussion on these items, I'll have you vote electronically. Okay. And that too has passed. For other business, are there any items of other business before us today? Councillor Olson.
I was wondering, while we have them here, could we have a short report on the visit of Flavio Volpe from the APMA a couple of weeks ago? And I'm not asking for a long one, but I thought it was very successful and informative, if that's possible.
It looks like it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Olson, through the Chair. Yes, we had Flavio Volpe, who's the President and CEO of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, provide an APMA regional tour. So Flavio and his team were here at regional headquarters on Monday, and we hosted here at regional headquarters. It was a well-attended event with a number of our local businesses and businesses beyond Niagara as well, too, who were invited to the event. We thank the APMA for including Niagara as part of the regional tour. They think that Niagara is certainly an area and a region that is well-positioned in automotive and manufacturing as a whole. And I think the views of the CEO were very interesting. They talked a lot about the automotive strategy that the federal government recently introduced, the opportunity and the optimism, I think, that the APMA, who represents a number of automotive manufacturers across Canada, see in the future and moving down the road. The discussion around the renegotiation and negotiation of the CUSMA, Canada-US trade agreement, was also mentioned. And with some optimism, Flavio had mentioned that there was a date of July of this year for the renegotiation of that agreement. That is not a firm date. It will, and most likely, will take several more months. And his anticipation is that that negotiation will take place into the fall of this year, but ultimately that we would get to a negotiated settlement with the U.S. government on that. He certainly stressed the importance of the integrated automotive industry and the importance of the integrated supply chain in Canada and the U.S. Talked a lot about the decision to open up our automotive industry to Chinese manufacturers and Chinese EVs coming into our market here. And I think, again, it was well received. I think it was very candid views by the APMA in terms of the prospect of continuing good discussions moving forward with the USMCA, but also I think the positive outcomes moving forward. With respect to electrification, it seems like the trend still continues to be that there will we see in Q4 of 2025 a 12% increase in electric vehicle purchases. With the new government incentives that have come out on electric vehicles, we anticipate that in 2026 and beyond, we'll see more demand for electric vehicles, and I think that will, that's our read on that particular sector as well too, that we think that the future will be in automotive and the electrification of vehicles moving down. So I think in general, it was a really well attended, a good discussion, lots of really good questions from the audience, number of our manufacturers in the room, and ultimately a positive view on what's to come throughout this year and into 2027.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that report. Any other items of new business for us today? Well, seeing none, the next meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 15th at 1 o'clock in council chambers. And there being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned. Stay dry, guys. I can hear the rain from here.